Okay, what's a charged object? Now, if we grab, like we do in class, a piece of plastic, and with this piece of plastic, we rub some wool against it. Okay, what will happen there is, depending on the plastic, usually inside an atom you'll have a proton, neutron, and electron around the outside. So proton, neutron, electron. Proton, neutron, electron. Now, inside the atom, the proton is a positive, neutron has no charge, and the electron is negative. These are in the nucleus, and these fly around the outside. Now, if we rub this wool along, it actually picks up the electrons and moves them into here. Okay, so this actually picks up lots of electrons, and we get left with lots of protons by themselves. Okay, now if we have too many protons, then the whole thing can be deemed to be a positive charge. So this thing is now positive. The wool actually has too many negative electrons, so it is now negative. So we now have some charged objects. You could happen the other way. Okay, we could have a different type of plastic. We could rub it with our wool. And what happens now is that the wool could actually provide electrons to this. And one key thing to remember, it is always electrons that move. Okay, so always electrons that move. So now we have a positively charged wool, and we now have a negative charge rod. Okay, so we've got positive and negative. Now, that's how you create charged objects. You could do it by rubbing your feet along the carpet. Okay, you could move then electrons from your body into the ground, and that means you will become positive, and so on. Now, the interesting thing is, things don't like to have an excess of charge. Charges don't like each other, which we'll look at soon. So if you actually gave them an escape route, they would take it. So if you had a doorknob on your door, and you came close to it, then the electrons will actually flow from the door onto your hand to try and balance things up. And that is what we call a spark. So if we charge things up enough, get lots of stuff that doesn't like each other together, then electrons will either fly to the object or fly away from the object to try and make things positive and negative neutral. In other words, same number of electrons, the same number of protons, so it becomes balanced. And usually when that happens, there's a spark as the electrons move around. Now, what is the actual law of charges? Pretty simple. If I charge an object that's positive and brought another charged object positive by it, they don't like each other, so they repel. Okay. If I brought an object that is negative close to a one that's negative, they will also repel. If I brought an object close to one that is negative and positive, or vice versa, then they actually attract. Okay? So they actually like each other. So this is what we call the law of charges. Okay? Like charges repel, unlike charges attract. Where can this be useful? This could be useful in things called induced charge. So let's say we had one of these charged rods. And what we do is we charge it up, and let's say this one's positive. If we had an object here, and it has your protons and electrons, proton, electron, proton, electron, electron, proton, it's all random. something like this, just lots of it, all random. Now if you brought this thing close in, if we brought this close, down like this, then as you did that, the things that like that positive will get drawn towards it. So all these little electrons start moving. Protons do not move. Okay, so all these electrons start moving. So we get an excess of electrons along the top. And our protons stay where they are. So now this thing will become negative at the top and positive at the bottom. Now, things like unlike charges attract. So what's going to happen is these two objects, so this thing, this thing here will actually be able to lift all of this one up towards it. So they will actually come together because they're attractive. Why don't they repel? Because we do have a positive here and a positive here. It's because it's further away than the negative. Okay, so the negative and positive will attract first. So this is why we can, with a rod that's charged, we can pick up paper. So what happens is the paper will become, let's say this is a negatively charged rod, will become negative, positive on the top, negative on the bottom, positive top, negative bottom, positive top, negative bottom, positive top, negative bottom. And what happens then is that they get dragged up and touch it.